Hello, everyone, and this is Heraclio Wyatt, and we want to welcome you to another episode of the Bounce Back Podcast, where we talk about resilience, we talk about growth, life change, faith-based insights to help you thrive in life and relationships, particularly in the bounce back period. Again, I'm Heraclio, and this is my co-host.
Paulette, Wyatt. How's everybody doing? Miss you guys. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us this wonderful, bright spring day. When we saw you guys, it was winter, and now it's spring, right? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a whole new season.
It was 2 weeks ago. It was still winter. Now today is spring, and you can tell the difference. The sun
Spring
is out a little longer. It's getting a little. The tulips our tulips are starting to come up a little bit. It's nice. Yeah.
Excited.
So that's So we've been away for a while. So before we jump into today's episode, today's episode is emotional intelligence and relationships. We're gonna talk about relationships a little bit, emotional intelligence. We're gonna talk about why women don't listen. We do.
Okay.
Before we jump into that,
I'll let you have that one.
Before we jump into that,
yeah, you look over here.
Tell us about what's been going on these 2 weeks. You miss everybody.
What's been going on these 2 weeks besides a new season? I'm a new age. I've completed another trip around the sun. So March 17th was my birthday. And so it's been a time of celebration. I've been spending time with my tribe, my people, hanging out, celebrating. I've been doing a lot of stuff with work. It's been pretty busy. Did some traveling. But it's been good. It's been good. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for to complete another trip around the sun. And I'm grateful to have people who love me and a community and a tribe that can celebrate that with me. So it's been awesome. Busy, but good busy, I would say, for me. What about you?
Yeah, well, we've been celebrating birthdays, celebrating yours. That was the first Monday that we missed, but we missed it for a good reason, to celebrate you. We've had a lot going on at church. Everybody's part of our church community. You know, we lost a pillar, one of the pillars in our community.
Yeah.
For as long as I've been alive, you know. So Pastor Grace left us a few weeks ago, and so that's been something her local church has been dealing with.
Right.
And our local church has been dealing with, and will continue to deal with in the days and weeks to come. Anyway, so shout out Apostolic Faith of Brooklyn, New York, and Apostolic Faith Church. So they both in Brooklyn. So I call one church the Bed-Stuy Church, and I call the other church, I've always called it the Brooklyn Church because it was the first church.
Right.
So let's just say the mother church. So Apostolic Faith Church, Mother AFC. That's what we're going to start calling ourselves.
Mother AFC of Brooklyn. Yeah,
you know how some churches, all these AMEs got Mother Emmanuel.
There you go.
Mother
Makes sense.
Yeah, so we're gonna be Mother AFC or AFM.
I like
and then
that.
We have our Bed-Stuy congregation. So just lift them up in prayer. We're gonna need your prayer in the coming days and weeks as we look to strengthen the body of believers, grieve together, and then call a path forward by the grace of God. And we know that God is going to be with us together. Yeah. Together. And then I had an opportunity a few weeks later to. It's been eventful. I'm excited. I got to guest lecture.
Yes.
Mega Everest. And that was fun.
Professor Doc.
Yeah, that was cool. So shout out to Dr.
Wyatt.
Mr. Lucas, my mentor. Let me say that again while Mr. Paulette not talking. So I want everybody to hear. No, we should shout out. I want them to hear Dr. Barbara Austin Lucas shouting her out for giving me the wonderful opportunity to guest lecture 2 semesters in a row. And I think I'm gonna be back there before the semester ends to continue to help the students there. It really awakened in me a desire to teach. So I'm really excited about doing that, not only to be able to be a pastor, but to make being a teacher and a professor. Look at me trying to fix my clothes while we do the podcast. A bigger part of my life, right? I love the classroom. I love whether it's the classroom or whether it's the church. Even when I'm in the church and I'm in the teaching space, mentoring and teaching and coaching, is something I enjoy doing. So that really awakened the fire in me to do that. And then this past weekend, we were away, me and you. We went with the Saints in DC.
Right.
Mother DC. The mother AFDC, but they have churches that they mother as well, and particularly Reston. So shout out to Reverend Josephine McKelvin and the saints there for the invitation and the opportunity to preach. And I was really uplifted,
Yeah.
really uplifted, believe it or not, really uplifted by the worship, by the welcome,
Yes, the
by
hospitality.
the hospitality and the
Yeah.
response to the people as we preach God's word. Amen. But we're back with our Bounce Back podcast and our Bounce Back community, still trying to create community through this space. And wherever you are, we pray that I met some folk that's been watching our podcast.
Yes.
So shout out to those who are watching. If you're watching and you're enjoying it, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 100. Did we make it to 100 yet? How close are we? We're gonna find out. We think real soon. We think real soon we're gonna get to 100 subscribers, and that'll be cool.
We're at 59. Come on.
Yeah, so come on. We need to start building our community. Please subscribe, share. Please share. If you think this podcast is a blessing, it's a blessing for you. Please share, and then like. And those are the most good things. Share, like, subscribe, share, like whatever order you want to do it in. Be a part of community so that we can have dialogue and conversation. But that's what's been going on with us, and we're glad to be back. I'm glad to do this with Paulette. Partner in our podcast.
That's sweet of you.
Big of what we do. That's one thing about we're going to be married 24 years this year. And one of the great things about being in relationship is partnering and sharing vision together. So we've been able to do that in ministry, and now we're able to do that in this podcast as we help people to bounce back from different life challenges. And then, of course, she has her thing where she teaches on her own. That's one thing, a powerful thing about marriage. You could partner and have things in common. And then as you grow in marriage, each one of you grow in different directions.
Right.
And you got to give each other the independence to grow in those areas. So teaching is her space. Teaching
and advocacy.
Teaching and advocacy. God bless her. Yeah. And then I like to be in the academic space myself, but in a different way. And so, amen. So anyway, we're going to start the show.
Okay.
Because I think that's a good segue. In order to be good at all of those things, we have to have emotional intelligence in our relationships. So that's the topic today. We all need emotional intelligence in our personal and professional relationships. So whatever vein you're going to use it in, we're going to dive into what it is, why it matters, and how understanding emotions can actually strengthen your connections with others. So it's about emotional intelligence.
Right.
And we're going to get ready to go.
We're going to get ready to go. So go grab a coffee, get comfortable, click like, subscribe, send, and tell a friend, join in. We're on YouTube right now. Join in the conversation in the chat. Let's get into it. All right. You ready to go for the first segment?
Sure. Let's talk about the first segment. So answer the question, what is emotional intelligence? Right? Or EQ. And based on the definition, it's just the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions. Okay. So it's about emotional awareness, emotional insight, right? And then the ability to control those emotions, right? So you need to be able to do those three things well. And we break that down further a little bit later. But you have to be able, for years, we had this thing called IQ.
Right.
Intelligent quotient, right? Which measured your capacity, your cognitive capacities, the ability to understand intellectually, perceive intellectually, your ability to process information, and how quickly you can do it, and engage with other people. So that's intelligent quotient. And that's what I've learned personally, actually, is that you can be good at one thing. You could have a high intellectual capacity and be emotionally retarded.
It's true.
That's a little bit of my story. I remember I was in Alliance Theological Seminary when I was getting my first degree, my MDiv. And what I learned was I was doing really good with my grades. I was busting them out, busting A's out. And then we took the EQI at school. Oh my goodness. I was shocked at how low my EQI was. Not only me, but a lot of pastors and leaders have
Mm,
low EQIs because what we always concentrate on many times is our intellectual capacity and cognitive capacities. But what I didn't realize is that my EQI was low. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to process my own emotions, be aware of my own emotions, empathize with others. I was really poor at that, poor at communicating my emotions. And so since that moment till now, one of my journeys is not only to become more have a capacity intellectually, but also emotionally to raise my EQI, right? Because it's not fixed. We can do something about it.
right. And and I'm the opposite. So I was a struggling learner in school. I struggled with reading in different areas. But I actually took a quiz a while ago, and I was surprised that my EI was pretty high. And I've just been always been fascinated. I loved anthropology, so I've been fascinated with human behavior and what people are thinking and feeling. And I never realized that that was a strength of mine, emotional EI, emotional intelligence. So it's kind of like not kind of it is the opposite of your experience, but that doesn't mean that I've arrived. I think for me, it's an ongoing process. I'm constantly learning about myself, learning how I interact with other people, um, so that you can use it effectively in how you engage people. So it's not something that you just know and that's it. It's a part of your life journey. It's something that's always going to be evolving. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit, since you are so gifted emotionally, and I would say, I would say, yeah, that our children emotionally,
Yes.
particularly, are very we haven't graded them, but compared to me, they act much more like you. And so I think they get a lot of their capacity for emotional awareness and processing and communication from you.
Oh,
So so what are the five elements Daniel Goleman talks about? You want
right.
to talk to us
So
about that?
psychologist Daniel Goleman, he outlined five key components of emotional intelligence. Number one, I'm always talking about it, self-awareness. Just being aware of how you're feeling, what it is, being able to label it, being able to put language to the emotion. I think that's why I love the emotion pillows that help people pinpoint
Where's
what it
my
is
pillow?
you're feeling. I love those. I believe, of course,
Oh,
I
that's
specialize in
weird.
I specialize in literacy, so language is very important. And so I believe in attaching language to the emotion is really helpful in helping you, and is helpful in self awareness. So number one, self awareness.
Wait, pause. Let's stay there for a
Yes.
second. I remember the
Okay.
other day we were talking, we were having like an intense conversation. The thing about me, I can't have light conversations. So me and Paulette, I'm always killing Paulette with these serious, intense
It stretches
communications.
me though. It stretches me.
And she asked me something, and I was like, I don't know. I need my pillow because I'm feeling the thing, but I really couldn't locate it. So yeah, we need to be able to. It's important that we be able to locate our
Put language
put
to it.
language to how
Yes.
we're feeling.
Yes.
That's very important
Hmm.
because it's going to impact the other things that Paul is going to talk about. So know what you're feeling because sometimes it could be anger. Sometimes you think it's anger, it's
Right.
not that, and you really process.
Right.
Like I said again, you have the six basic emotions: fear, anger, disgust, sadness, happiness, surprise.
Hmm.
But then, I always show y'all this, but then it
Breaks
spreads,
down even
then
more
it breaks down even more and even more.
and
So
even more.
the more sophisticated you get with EQI, you could go beyond the cartoon characters we see in what's the name of the movie?
Inside Out, my favorite
Inside Out. Right, right,
movie.
right.
And don't
So
forget
this
Dreams.
is this is all about Inside Out right here. But
Yes.
then but if we become more sophisticated, and that's what we saw with Inside Out, that
Yes.
each iteration of the movie allows us to see something a little bit more deeper. It's been 3 of them now. They have 3 of them.
No, it's 2. It's 2 and a miniseries. The Dream.
You sure it's not 3? But let's keep going. All right, what's your next one? I feel like it's 3, but okay.
You talk about the miniseries, yes. Oh, so we got self-awareness. Self-regulation is very important. This is something we even specify focus on a lot in ABA and applied behavioral analysis, where you understand. So we go from being self-aware, I am angry, and then regulating that. So finding strategies and cues on how to regulate that emotion. We don't just want to understand what the emotion is. We want to understand, what do I do with it? Because it can go from one extreme to the next. So self-regulation, self-awareness, self-regulation is very, very important.
So like for me, if I'm aware of my emotions, I won't eat that ice cream late at night.
Right. I've done that.
Right. Because I know, okay, I know this emotion. All right. When I get sad, I look for comfort. Okay, that's when I go get the late night snack or the ice cream. Or that's when me and you start fussing. Right. And so, yeah. So to know the emotion, feel the emotion. There's nothing, I think that's an important thing. There's nothing wrong with any of the emotions.
They're not wrong or right.
There's nothing wrong to be angry.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being surprised or happy or disgusted or sad. There's nothing wrong with being sad. Nothing wrong with any of the emotions. They're all there actually for your well-being.
Yes.
Every emotion is there for your well-being. But what we need to be able to do is self-regulate or have self-control. And that's, we could do a larger, it's connected to some of the conversations we were having earlier about assertiveness and stuff like that we talked about before. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, this is great. So you have self-awareness, self-regulation. You have motivation. That's number 3. What moves you forward into, you have motivation. And then finally,
so explain motivation. So it's so when you're emotional, I know for me, depending on how I feel, it can help me move toward. So if I'm angry, I can lash out, or I could use that anger to say. So I know when I was younger, I would say, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. You said I won't do well in school, and I'm angry with you. I can do 2 things with that. I can I can say, I'm going to quit. You're right.
Right.
Or that person cheated on you and you say, well, I'm not worth it. And you break up and you let yourself go. But you can use that anger. You can use any of those emotions to motivate you to set these goals. And so for me, academically, it was proving my professors and my teachers. My teacher in high school, Mr. Passignac, he probably not even alive anymore, but he motivated me to prove him wrong. And academically, I think I did okay in terms of proving him wrong. But so it's linked to our internal goals.
Yes.
What do you want for your life, and how do those emotions help you to be resilient? Remember, this is called bounce back.
Right.
And we want all of our emotions to help us. So whether it's anger, whether it's happiness, whether it's fear, all of these things can either these emotions can hinder us from achieving our goals, or it can propel us into achieving our goals.
Right. And it even goes back to the growth mindset, right? So if I'm struggling I'm struggling in math and I feel bad, I have 2 choices. I can either have a fixed mindset and say, no, I just can't go forward. Or I can say, I could look at it as a challenge and be motivated to master it, to learn it, So it even goes back to the other things, other topics that we've talked about, that growth mindset, that growth, what motivation do I have to go forward? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. So we have self-awareness.
Go ahead.
Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy. Now I'm going to let you break down empathy, because you break that down.
Why am I breaking down empathy? But okay, I think this is So empathy is the ability to understand and share feelings, not just of your own, right? And we want to be careful not to sympathize with people. When you
Mm.
sympathize, you're not being aware of their feelings. You are almost condescending and looking. We got to be careful not to always sympathize, right?
Mm.
And I'm trying to make the comparison. But sympathy, you don't have to feel somebody else's feelings in order to sympathize. Right?
Mm.
Somebody can be going through a moment of grief, and you'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but you don't really saying "I'm sorry" about your grief is sympathizing. Whereas you say something more like, "I'm here, and
Right.
I'm here with you. I can I can only imagine what you're going through
Or I
and
can't
trying, or I
imagine.
can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here." You're trying to grow in your capacity to understand and share the feeling. So if someone is feeling sad, you don't try to be happy and you don't try to get them out of their
Right. Or
sadness.
get out the
You
mood.
sit with
Right.
them and say, "Girl, I'll be upset too. If homeboy did that to me, I'll be upset. I'm here with you. We gonna be mad together right now." You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Good girlfriends would do that, or
Yep.
brothers would do that for each other, right? Or if somebody is happy because they got a promotion or they celebrate a birthday, you might not be having a good day, but when they share that with you, you have a good friend will be able to share in someone else's emotions, even
Yes.
though you're not feeling that in the moment. So,
Yes.
okay, my friend is happy they got the promotion. Girl, we're gonna celebrate. You know, I don't know why I keep girlfriending it because I don't think I think the reason I do that because guys don't really,
Guys don't do that. We gotta
guys
work on
don't we
that.
don't yeah, we gotta work
Brothers.
on that. You gotta work on that a little bit better. But we are there for each other. But yeah, okay. But
That's interesting though.
that's
I
that's
never really
empathy.
thought about that. Sympathizing and being empathetic. It is a fine line.
It's a fine
So you
line.
have to really be purposeful
I can feel
in how you
sorry for
approach.
you. That's
Right.
sympathy. Empathy is I feel sorry with you.
With you. You're in it because you're putting yourself
I'm
in that
in it
person's
with you.
perspective.
Right.
Yes,
So
that's good.
you can
I
be
like that.
grieving and I feel sorry for you, but I'm
Hmm.
good. And I'm all right, I'll call you, you know what I'm saying? But empathy requires that I become aware of your feelings.
Right.
I step into it with you and I sit in it with you. I
Right.
sit shiva as the
Ah,
Jewish folk do
yes.
for 7 days when somebody passes away.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So, and that's really important. It's really important
It
as
is.
leaders. It's important in relationships. It's important for me and you, right, to empathize with each other. Even, I think one of the things sometimes me and you might get into is, and I think I've become better at doing it as we've been married for a long time. But sometimes it's just important for me to say, yo, I validate your feelings. You should feel that way. I think you did that for me the other day. We were talking
Hmm.
on Sunday, and you was like, you know what? I can see where you're coming from, and I validate how you feel. You have every right to feel the way you feel, and you'd be surprised how far that will go when someone
Mm.
is willing to validate your feelings. And
Yeah.
so you can only do that when you have empathy, and I think that's a gift. I think empathy is a gift. It's a gift from
Yes.
God to be
Yeah.
able to share in someone's feelings. Another term that the Bible uses, hallelujah, I'm about to get preachy,
All right
is compassion.
now. Mm.
Right? Passion is all about feeling. The Bible says Jesus had compassion. He
Right.
felt with. That's empathy. It simply
Yeah.
means that when someone was suffering, Christ suffered. Um, Christians are not empathetic. Christians are some of the most unempathetic people.
We've had this
Um,
conversation.
they're
Yeah.
some of the most unempathetic people because as soon as somebody has a problem, we trying to get them delivered and out of their problem instead of sitting with them in their issue
Sitting with
first.
them. Right.
Sometimes you got to see it. Sometimes you got to be in it. Jesus, the Bible said before he raised up Lazarus, oh glory. Let me
All right
stop
now.
preaching. But before he raised up Lazarus, the Bible
Hmm.
says Jesus wept. He listened to
Yes.
Mary. He listened to Martha. He
Yes.
didn't. He didn't. He didn't berate them or belittle them because of their grief. Another, he grieves with them. The Bible says Jesus wept, and then the Bible says the people saw him
Hmm.
that he cried and said,
Yes.
"Oh, how he loved him." Right, and
Mm.
so people need to know that we care before we
Yes.
try to minister,
Hmm.
particularly to people we're close to.
Right.
Before we try to help, people need to see that we care, and empathy allows
Yes.
us to care. And so once
Yes.
we have compassion, then we can move on to helping. So if you and somebody else is going through something and need to cry, let them cry. If they need to be angry, let people be angry.
Right.
Christians have to grow in several areas. And so sometimes we need to, you could be a spiritual giant and an emotional midget.
Midget. Yep. It's true.
Right? You could be an intellectual giant and an emotional midget. And we find that a lot of times in the church because we focus so much on growing in the spirit, which is very important. But growth in the spirit doesn't mean growth emotionally. So we need to do all of it together. Right? We need to read our Bible so we can grow intellectually and in the capacity to understand the Bible. We need to grow spiritually in prayer and fasting in the spiritual discipline so we can become spiritual giants. We also need to do it emotionally.
Yes.
We need to journal. We need to confess. We need to do gratitudes. We need to have a heart because our God is all of those things. Our God is relational. He feels with us. He suffers with us. Through Jesus, he does these things. He feels with us. He suffers with us. He understands with us so that we can grow in these areas. Okay, let me stop.
And one thing I love about that too, one thing I love about our relationship, our friendship, is that we're able to hold each other accountable for it. So,
okay, how?
So you know, we've been in conversations where you said to me, Paulette, you need to have more empathy.
Ooh, tell my business. Okay, I gotta tell you that.
But you know, because you know what you say carries weight. It allows me, and we'll talk about this later on in EQ, to step back, reflect, and be like, you know what, you're right. You know, and it just keeps you sharp because just like self-awareness and self-regulation, it's a constant daily work that we have to be constantly aware of and exercising it. So yeah. So it's good to have that village that holds you accountable for these things. Yeah.
So you know what I've learned about Christian people, in particular our circles. It's circles where people are very biblically literate. We read constantly the Bible where there's a narrative about a particular person. Right. So whether the story is about David or whether it's about Moses, whether it's about Abraham and the struggle to have faith, whether it's David and his journey to kingship and with his anointing and the struggles there, whether it's Moses and his calling. We read about calling and life meaning, and what ends up happening, and I grew up around this, is that the people of God often feel like they have a personal narrative that God is working out. That their narrative is the only important narrative. That's the kind of environment we grew up in. So we, you know, I ain't gonna make it no more personal than that. What I will say is when you do that, whether you're a minister and you feel like God has called you to pastor later on, or whether you are whatever God has called you to, and you feel like there's a calling in your life, and God is going to use you in a particular way. Oftentimes when that happens, we can fall to the temptation of only feeling like I just need to understand what I'm going through, instead of understanding that all of us have our own narrative. All of us is the main character in our story. Not really, right? God is supposed to be the main character in our story, but at the same time, we are at the center of our own story. True. But everybody is. So not only am I having my own journey and my own story, so are you. So is Paulette. Right. And so I need that emotional awareness allows me to understand things are not just happening to me. Right. A lot of times misunderstandings take place because me and you might experience something, but in my mind, I'm only thinking about how it's affecting me. And I'm not thinking about how it's impacting you. But as we all go through different things, we must understand that I'm not the only one having a journey, but all of us are having our own particular journey. And I've got to be interested in your story. And a high EQI people are concerned about other people's story. And it takes growth and stuff like that. Let's keep going.
One more thing. And it allows you to, once I'm aware that it's not just me, then I can honor and respect your experience. And I believe that's very, very important. We don't do that enough.
We don't do that.
We don't honor each other, other people's experiences and their story for what it is, and validate that. And
I saw that.
Important. That helps in healing, I find.
Amen.
It has
Amen.
helped me
Yeah.
in my own
Yeah.
personal healing. Yeah.
We were at the funeral a few weeks ago. Lord have mercy. We really going into it. And I saw old, if we're not careful, old storylines will keep playing 30 years later because the
Mm,
same people in the story still think is their story, as
yes.
opposed to realizing all of us are going through the same event in different ways,
Yes. From
and we
different
have to honor
perspectives.
each other's story. So
Right.
I have my story, and my story is legitimate and very real. I had a wonderful opportunity through my dissertation to interview, and this really opened up my heart toward everyone's story.
Mm-hmm.
I had an opportunity to interview over 27 people about their calling to
Mm.
ministry. And some of these people I knew well, some of the people I didn't know well. But hearing everyone's story, I realized God speaks to us all.
Mm.
Um, and every one of us is going through something. And then I
Right.
had a chance to, after that, to even interview some of our fathers and mothers in ministry. And I was very well aware of my own father's story because, like,
Mm-hmm.
us PKs, we're living in
Right.
our father's narrative.
Right.
So for
Yes.
so long, I wasn't living my own story. I was living a part of, my dad was the main character of the
Mm.
whole story, right? My dad was the main character of his story, and to some degree, our story. And I think my mother was like that with her dad. Her dad
Mm-hmm.
was pastor and overseer, so
Right.
all of us was characters in Granddaddy's story or
Mm-hmm.
characters in my father's story as he pursued
Right.
ministry. And you were part of your father's story, and
Right.
anybody that had ministers in their family, you're part of their story. You're there to help them get to the pinnacle.
Right.
Oh Lord, help me. Um, but what ends up happening is that's the only story that matters. But that's not the truth. I've got to understand and hear other
Right.
people's story. And sometimes people we make fun of and people we look down on
Right.
have a sincere experience with God,
Yes.
and they see things and they feel things and they going through things. And it's very important that we honor each other's story,
Yes.
honor the
Yes.
way we feel, honor each other's
Yes.
journeys,
Mm-hmm.
understand that we all experience something different,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important.
Yeah.
And the sooner we can grow in emotional intelligence, the less damage we create. But I think we're
Mm.
going to do some more of that as we move forward. So let
Yes.
me not jump ahead.
Definitely. Definitely. And the last one after empathy, so we have self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and finally social skills. Social skills, how we interact with each other, and it pretty much speaks for itself, how we interact with each
How
other.
to keep a friend.
How to keep,
How to keep a friend.
we gotta
How
have
to keep a friend. How to stay married. How to stay in church without your church splitting. Social skills.
skills. Yes.
How to talk to people.
Right.
So when me and you got married, I came out of a house where we confronted each other. You came out of a house where there was less confrontational.
Right.
And so for you, it was culture shock that I confronted everything, right? And you had to teach me how to talk to you. It took a while too, because at first I didn't understand why you just can't. I see something, I say what I see.
You too sensitive.
And that's what I would say. I just had a low emotional intelligence. I just didn't know how to talk to you. And we have to know how to talk to each other, exchange with each other,
Yes.
build and maintain positive relationships.
Yes.
And oftentimes things I've hurt people in church, not because what I had to say was true, and I've hurt you, not because what I have to say is not true, but just the way you say the truth.
Yes.
And sometimes if you say it right, there might be pain. But we have to be able to say things, communicate things. When I talk to you, look you in the eyes.
Right.
I'm not on my phone while I'm talking to you, and
right.
you talking and I'm texting. Even
That's
though
all
I'm
social skills,
sometimes,
yeah.
right? But so all of that counts. Social skills, the ability to keep and maintain and build relationships.
And it's more challenging now, especially with technology, because we're on the phone. So even now I find in the classroom I have to make a point. Look at me, look at your friend when you're talking to them, engage. We even have to teach our kids, we're teaching them at this young age how to look at their friends and see, how are you feeling? How do you think they're feeling? And so it's true. And it's not just engaging socially. Sometimes not engaging could be just as painful
Hmm.
as,
Right. That's
not
true.
having this, having the wrong kind of social skills. Sometimes we think if we don't say anything, we're silent. Sometimes that could be more painful than
Right.
anything else.
Right.
So
Because I
that's a
need to
part
hear
of
from you.
social skills as well, too.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So
So it's about building and maintaining relationships. And then another thing it's about also is how to fight well.
yes.
Because you can't have a real relationship, and this is for the married folk.
Yeah.
People who don't fight not really married. If you're in a relationship and you never argue and you never have conflict, you're not really
It's a
deeply.
problem.
It's a problem.
It's a problem.
If you can't trust each other enough to disagree with each other
Mm,
constructively, the relationship is not have emotional depth
right.
because you haven't come to the place where you know that your relationship can survive an argument.
Right. It's true.
If your relationship can't survive conflict, you don't have trust.
Right.
So you cannot avoid conflict.
Right. There goes that silence. Because
Right. You
sometimes
can't
people
avoid
just,
conflict.
yeah, I've
You
done
can't
that.
avoid
Just
conflict.
shut down
Right.
to avoid conflict.
But then the
Silence.
relationship doesn't get any deeper.
No, it
So
doesn't.
it's about deepening trust. It's about improving communication
Right.
and fostering those meaningful relationships. And you need to be able to do that.
And going back to what you said, what I've learned, because I had to learn I'm not the center of the story. There are other people involved in it. And when I look at it at that perspective, it allows me to fight smarter, not harder, you know?
Do I have permission to adjust it a little bit?
Okay, go ahead.
You are the center of your story.
Okay,
It's your story, but somebody else is having a different story.
right.
And oftentimes, what we think, we view everybody else as just
From
bit
our story.
players in my story. And to
Right,
some
right.
degree, that's it. Me and you talk about marriage and relationship, and you talk about
Mhm,
when I got married, I had a dream of what marriage would be.
right.
And when I got married, I had a dream of what marriage would be. What we
Mhm.
learned is we didn't have the same dream.
Dream. Nope. And we didn't talk about it.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't have, you were dreaming about one thing, I
One
was dreaming
thing.
about another thing. We
Mhm,
never talked about it.
right,
But as long as I had you to play the role in making my dream come true about
right,
marriage, I was good. And you really saw me fulfilling a role in
right,
making the dream of marriage what you
right.
thought what it should become true. And what we've learned over 20 something years, and we haven't mastered it.
We still
We still
learning,
haven't
y'all.
mastered it. We haven't mastered it.
We still
Far
learning.
from it. But one thing we do realize, we're beginning to realize, is
Yeah.
that Paulette is having her own story.
Hmm.
I'm not responsible for making her dream become the reality.
That's right. Or my
Um,
happiness. Or
but I should be aware that she does have dreams. It's not just about what I want.
Mm,
It's not just about what she wants. And then we got to come and begin to negotiate what life is going to be like if we're going to make it work. And that's every couple. I
right.
hear couples, particularly women. Women often get married for the dream of what marriage should be, and to
Right.
fulfill a role in society and culture, without thinking about who they're marrying, even if they know the person really well. This person
Right.
is just going to play a role in making this thing come true for me,
Hmm.
and you're not really being fair emotionally to the other person.
Right.
And
Because you're giving them unspoken expectations.
right,
And
you're
then
signing a contract that wasn't illicit,
never agreed to.
agreed to.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's not fair to either of you.
All
So
right.
all right. So those are our 5 elements. And these elements,
Self-awareness,
yep, self-awareness.
self-regulation,
Hmm.
motivation,
Hmm.
empathy,
Hmm.
social skills.
Yes.
All
And
right.
when these elements are strong, our relationships can thrive.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. We're almost done. We're not gonna keep you long, but let's go. How it strengthens. Let's talk about how emotional intelligence strengthens relationships.
Mhm.
We talked a little bit about ourselves.
Right.
We're starting to get a little transparent.
Hmm.
Everything in child business, but we'll share a little bit. So let's get personal. Paulette, think about a time when emotions got the best of you in our relationship. And everybody that's listening, you could do the same thing too. Think about a
Hmm.
time when your emotions got the best of you in a relationship. Maybe you reacted too quickly, took something personally, or misread a situation. Um, can you remember one? Maybe you can.
Which one can I
It
pick?
don't even have to be with me. It could be anything.
There have been different occasions where I looked at someone's face and their reaction to something, and I assumed the wrong thing. And from that assumption, I created an entire narrative that was far from the truth, and not realize, and then not only until I've spoken to the person that I realized that wasn't the case. And so, and that has happened to me on many occasions, and they're talking to me and I'm all defensive and I'm mad because I think you're this to me and that to me. And that's far from it. They had a gas vein and they were making that face when I was talking to them. It has nothing to do with them being upset, So that's an experience. Very generic, but that has happened to me on many occasions. Yeah.
What would you do in that occasion going forward if that happened?
So what I've learned to do now. So I'm a talker. Everybody knows I'm the Babylon Brook, and so I don't like holes in the conversation. Moments of silence, space. Okay. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It has not anymore, but it used to always make me feel uncomfortable. So I'm always quick to react immediately as opposed to stepping back and being reflective. And so now I think I'm very proactive or purposeful in doing that. I do it in meetings now. I do it in conversations now. I pause, and I understand that the pause is okay, and it allows me to step back and reflect before I respond. And so that has helped me. Because then I don't have to apologize. I'm not beating up myself over a conversation that I shouldn't have had because I was so quick to respond. So just stepping back and reflecting has really helped me. Yeah.
Mm. So that's a good example there of self-awareness. So you're aware that when there's silence, you get uncomfortable.
Yes.
That's a perfect example.
Yes.
Right. Being aware over time. Before you might not have been aware of it.
Right.
And so from there, you silence happens. You look at somebody's in the midst of silence. Oh, they don't want to talk to me. Or
right.
And you're making assumptions as opposed to realizing it starts with you. So a lot of times, again, that's the whole thing. The person might be having a gas pain, or they might be having a bad day. I was gonna say the Bible says there's this great book. You go run. I'm gonna run. If I run, they might.
You can put me on a center. Just put me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see that.
That way you can go run.
Yeah.
But no, that definitely has been a situation with me. And one of my favorite books that I read every couple of years is called The Four Agreements. And
that's the book I was just about to say. I'm just about to go run and grab it. So it's behind you.
He got one book and I went and bought my own.
Yeah, we both got a copy of the book. My copy's over there all broken up. But Paulette, that's the exact book I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Which one you were talking about? It's the one that
never make assumptions.
Oh, okay, so we have different points.
Okay.
So for you, it's never make assumptions.
It's a whole bunch of them.
For me, it's just 4. It don't take anything personal.
Yes. I had to learn that.
When somebody else does something to you, it's not about you. Even if somebody's yelling at you, it's not about you, it's about them.
Right.
It's about the emotional experience that they are having. It's about the story they're in. Somebody says, I hate you. I hate your guts. It's not really about you, even though they're pointing it to you. It's about how they feel.
Right.
It's about their journey and their bitterness and all that stuff.
Seeing their experience.
So say that it's not about you. And then that book, Four Agreements, is great for all the emotional.
Yes.
Be impeccable with your words. Mean what you say, but say it clearly. So when I'm talking to my wife, I have to be impeccable with my words. I can't just lash out and say, you disgust me, woman. Right? I can't say that. I have to say, that time I came home and I saw the table the way I did, and I didn't like it. It made me feel a certain way. It made me feel that you didn't care.
Right.
That's how I felt.
Right.
It felt like I could be wrong. And then I hear you say, well, I was busy when I got home. I had this, and this to do.
Right. I got home right before you.
Time.
Right.
I got home just before you. I'm discussing that. Sometimes I've learned, I don't like it either, but it's just so it's all about communication. It's all about communication.
And notice you didn't say you. What did you say?
I.
I statements.
You got to use I statements, right?
Yeah.
I feel this way.
Yeah.
You didn't make me feel that way.
Right.
This is how I feel. Owning my feelings, and then
Mhm.
making you own your feelings. How do you feel?
Right.
You know, instead of telling you how you should feel, I should ask. So we always want to be aware of everybody's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then how does it show empathy? Talk about empathy.
Empathy. How does it
In
show?
That moment for you also show empathy, because in that moment, what you're doing is you're realizing that person is going
Right.
through something. They got that gas pain, but so that's
Right.
empathy.
Or they may be under and I've done that. I mean, I've done that at work where, things are hyper and people act in the moment. And I've learned not to take things personally because this person may be under a lot of pressure, and so it's all good. You may not say good morning to me in this moment. I've had people, I've said good morning and then walk right by. Don't take it personally. I won't take it personally. And then by the end of the day, they're like, I love you.
Right.
20 years ago, I'd be like, you bipolar. But now it's in all perspective. I've empathized. It's 8:00 in the morning. They may be under a lot of pressure. And it's the end of the day, and they got a better grasp on things. So it's a different perspective. So yeah, empathy is really, really powerful. And EQ.
How do you think you're doing with empathy now that we had that conversation? All those, I think it's been years now since we said that.
I think I'm purposeful. I think there's always room for improvement. There are times where I do mess up and I do slip up. But I'm even I'm aware of that. So I'm always trying to self-correct. So I think for me, it's just one of those things that's a lifelong work in progress that I always have to be proactive in and on top of. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So empathy means that when I'm talking to my wife, I'm not waiting for my turn to talk. Preparing my argument in an argument. Well, you're gonna say that, so this is gonna be my counter argument. That's what we do.
And then you get interrupted. That's how you know when people are not listening.
Right. I'm guilty of that.
And that wasn't even shade.
I know. You know what happens for me?
I've done that.
Is that I've, at my age, and I've done it when I was younger. But what happens after a while? You're in conversation so much so that most people's narrative is, there's not a lot of different narratives. Carl Jung talks about 12 different archetypes. That number 12 is important. There's only about 12 different stories going on, and there's billions of people on the planet. Only about 12 stories. Or 12 iterations of a story.
Right.
You have 12 disciples. You have 12 tribes. You have 12 signs astrologically. You have 12 archetypes. Right. So regardless of I'm getting all philosophical, and I didn't mean to.
It's all right.
But what ends up happening is there's only about 12 stories. In your story, you're either the sage, you're the hero, you're the father, you're the mother. Even in some of our gospel stories,
there's a trickster in there too.
There's some tricksters.
Archetype.
I have some trickster archetype in me too. So sometimes I'm playing. So what's your archetype?
I don't know. I haven't read up on them in a while, so I gotta really look through them to say what mine is. I know I took the quiz a while ago. I can't remember what it was, but I got to read through all of them. Now you're gonna make me go.
I'll go into a place and I can be disruptive, and that's the trickster in me. I can go into a place and be very wise. That's the sage in me. In my role as pastor, as we move forward in the direction we're going in. When I started the pastoral role, I was more of a disruptor because I like to innovate.
Right.
Now 12 years in, the story is changing a little bit, and now I'm more of the father type. Where I'm at now calls more for mentoring, fathering, coaching. That's the stage of life I'm in. So most of us, you walking around, everybody has the same story. And I say all I have to say, when I hear people in conversation, I feel like I kind of know what they're going to say.
Right.
You've heard thousands and thousands and thousands of conversations.
Right.
And so sometimes I've already made a conclusion about what you're going to say. About 50% of the time I'm right. But what I've also learned is it's about 50% of the time I'm wrong.
And you want to honor their
and I want to honor their right. So it's good to listen. So that's why sometimes I interrupt, and I don't know, maybe somebody. But we're gonna do an episode on archetypes. We gotta find us.
Yes, we got to.
We can do that ourselves. Yeah, that'll be a fun.
I remember we did.
We'll talk about the archetypes and figure out which one you are and what story.
Make you
right?
take a quiz.
And so, yeah. And so I learned, I don't know who I am in your story. See, so in my story, I'm one person, but in your story, I'm a
Be
different
somebody
character.
else. Right. It
So in
changes
Paulette's story,
based on the story.
based on the archetypes, you could tell me what you think what role I played in your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna make me pull up the 12 archetypes.
No, we're gonna do an episode just for this.
Okay.
But you know I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole when we get off this podcast, right? I'm gonna go look it up.
What you learn in life is there's no coincidences, though. Things that seem to be coincidences are not really coincidence. I mean, there are some coincidences, but life has a way of bringing us where we need to be, bringing us around the people we need to be.
Yes.
So as much as sometimes we've been married 24 years, and sometimes no matter how much we may feel like there are times, just being transparent with me and Paulette, there are things we do well together, and there's ways in which we struggle together. And sometimes in the areas of struggle, you can feel like, man, should we have been part of our story? But life over and over again showed us that somehow something, we gotta say God, we're Christians, was bringing us together to be partners in some kind of way, right? Partners in relationship, partners in ministry, partners. And there are people in your life that God wants to be in your life.
That wants to connect you with divine connections. Yes.
And it's not just one person. You're not divinely connected to one person. You're divinely connected to maybe two or three people. Yeah. They belong in your life. They're supposed to be there for the whole
part of the journey, for the whole ride.
And if you find your people, you'll live a long, long life.
A long, healthy
life. Okay, we got off. Oopsie.
Find your village.
Yeah. All right. Let's. What you said? Find your what?
Find your village.
Okay. Last segment, and we're gonna bring it to. This is fun though. I'm enjoying myself. All right.
Me too.
Practical ways to build emotional intelligence. You go.
All right. Here are a few strategies to boost your EQ. You ready? Practice self-awareness.
Practice it.
I'm gonna say it again. Practice. I'm looking at the camera. Practice self-awareness. Regularly check in on yourself.
How am I feeling?
How are you feeling? And not just how are you feeling, why am I feeling the way I feel? And there are different ways of getting that out. You can journal, you can pray, and these things help you process the emotions. Self-awareness also helps you figure out what's the best and healthiest way to process what you're feeling. For some people, it could just be music. For some people, it could be deep prayer. Some people, it could be mindfulness. So self-awareness, very, practice self-awareness, very important. All right. Next one, pause before reacting. That's something we talked about earlier. Pause before reacting. When emotions rise, take a deep breath.
Make sure there's a mint in your mouth before you breathe on somebody.
And ask yourself, is my reaction helpful or harmful? And the more you
so differentiate for me between emotion, feeling the emotion, and reacting. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
It is?
No, that's not the same thing. Those are two different things.
Okay.
Feeling the emotion, I feel anger. Right?
And you're not responsible for how you feel.
No.
A feeling happens.
A feeling is a feeling.
A feeling's a feeling.
Feelings are not good. Feelings are not bad. Feelings are feelings.
Feelings are feelings.
And so we have to really keep that at the forefront of our brain, because that way we don't shame people,
Right.
Don't make nobody feel bad because they angry. Right. Don't make nobody feel bad because they sad. It's okay to be sad.
Don't make people feel ashamed because they have desire.
Yes.
They may have physical desire, emotional desire. It's a feeling. What they're responsible for is the reaction.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Going. Practice before reacting. Yes. Next one. Develop empathy. So practice putting yourself in others' shoes. Ask open-ended questions and listen more than you speak.
That's James.
Yeah, and I have to say that's something you've mastered. You're a great I think that's why you're such an amazing coach.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
Thank
why
you.
you're such an amazing with your pastoral care and how you take care of the people that God has placed under you, and why you're so
Oh,
good at
thank you.
that, because you're and I've always admired that about you. You're an amazing, active listener.
Thank
You
you.
know
Thank
what
you.
questions to ask, because when you ask open-ended questions, it allows one to really think further. You know, that higher learning thinking. We talked about this in school last night, in class last night, about inferencing. You know, and inferencing, you're just basically asking why, right? Because once you start to answer that why question, you're actually, thinking more with more depth and more deeper. So they're showing us how to teach our little ones how to inference in kindergarten, because it allows them to think even further and to think even deeper. So, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely practice empathy. Put yourself in the person's shoes and ask open-ended questions. And if you don't know how to ask open-ended questions, you can go on Google, and Google will give you some basic open-ended questions for conversations, right? We utilize the internet. And that helps, because it helps you go even more deeper, and then it allows the person to feel seen. Because if you ask why, you're not asking what, but you're asking why. And it allows a person to share their experience, and it gives them the space to be seen. So definitely, develop empathy. The next one is improve communication. And I'm going to let Doc break this down.
Improve
Improve
communication.
communication. And how? How do we do that? Use.
Oh, that's why you want me to do it. Okay. So we use I statements. We take responsibility for our words. So it's very important that you're responsible for your words. Use I statements instead of you statements. I something when I woke up this morning, I didn't see you. You know, sometimes Paulette might be going downstairs early to pray or something, and I won't see her, and I'll be like, "You just left me in the bed. You make me feel like I'm like you don't care." Instead of saying, "I didn't see you this morning. I missed you. When I didn't see you, I felt lonely. It made me feel I felt lonely." Like
And that
own
would
your
be
feelings. Go ahead. You had a question.
No. I was thinking out loud. Go ahead. And I said,
Okay.
now, if you made a comment like that, that would make me feel loved, because
The way I handled it. Right. Right.
The way you, yeah.
Right. And oftentimes
That's a
that's
moment
really
of
what it
connection.
is. Like a lot of times, like church folk, we in church. Well, about time. I didn't see you in weeks. I didn't see you been in church in 3 weeks.
You decided to come.
You decided to come. That's really what the people want to say, and they don't have the emotional intelligence to do it. It's just say, "We missed you."
Right.
So it's good to see you.
Yes.
That sounds better. It
That's a
doesn't put
moment of
people on
connection.
defensive. Right.
Yeah.
It creates connection. We've missed you. It's so good to see you. And then you say, "Is everything okay?" I haven't seen you in a while. Is everything okay? Right? That's an open-ended question, like you were talking about. So look, we have no excuse not to have emotional intelligence, because we have the tools today.
Yes.
There's Google, there's OpenAI, there's all kinds of resources to know how to do this well. So we don't have any excuse.
No excuse.
Last one.
What does it say?
Learn to apologize and forgive. Now this is this is for all the wives out there. Learn to apologize. Now I'm gonna say this for all the brothers. We have to apologize. From the moment we get married, we learn, if we're gonna have peace, we gotta say, "I'm sorry, baby," and forgive. Wives don't say, "I'm sorry." You don't agree, babe?
No, we working on it. We working on it.
Why is it so hard for wives to say, "I'm sorry"? Do you agree with that? You don't have to agree.
I wouldn't make such a generalized statement saying that all wives. I think it's an individual thing, because some people are okay with saying sorry, and some people aren't. So I wouldn't generalize that as into a role.
If we're gonna put a poll out there for all the brothers that are married,
okay,
we all know that we say sorry faster.
I know. You know what? In our relationship, who says sorry more, you or me? Look at the way he's looking at me. Okay, well,
No, your honest estimation.
no, I think you. Yeah, I think you say sorry. I think it's on
because guys we always messing up. We've been messing up since we were younger. We realize we're gonna mess up, and so we are easy to say, yo, I did that. I'm sorry, and be able to forgive and move forward, right? So humility and grace go a long way.
But
yeah, go ahead.
No, I got a question for you to add to this. Is there a right or a wrong way to apologize?
This is a challenge. So, we do that whole love language thing. There's also an apology language, right? So for me, saying I'm sorry, particularly based on what was done, is often not enough. So some people need reparation.
Yes.
Or repair.
Yes.
Or some kind of act to show that you're really sorry.
Yes.
So for me personally, that's what you're kind of getting to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not with you. I'm just talking about in general. I've had to learn how to apologize. Like,
what are you saying?
Because sometimes you've hurt. Sometimes people want you to just acknowledge the hurt. They don't want you to explain why you did it.
Right.
What were the motives behind it? What was not your motive? They just want you to acknowledge your hurt. So I've had to learn to say,
to start with that. Yeah.
I hurt you, and I understand how you feel, and I'm sorry. And that's it. And that has done wonders in my, in some personal relationships where I've had to apologize. You want to get me annoyed? Do two things. Say, I don't recall, because you're lying. Or say, I'm sorry you feel the way that you do.
I hate that one too.
That is not an apology.
That's blaming you for having feelings. That is a sign that you have low EQ.
Yeah, I'm
you
sorry.
Say that one, like I didn't. The other one, somebody could actually forget sometime, but you're right. Most of the time, if we talk and you remember it, yeah. But that second one is the worst.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You feel the way you feel.
Right.
Well, that means you're not really sorry.
So that's not the apologize we're talking about.
So let me break this down real fast. Maybe we'll do an episode on this. There's 5 ways to apologize, and there's 5 ways that speak to people. Right?
Nice.
So there's expressing regret. Okay.
Well,
this involves acknowledging the hurt you caused. Right. So that's what you were talking about. There's accepting responsibility. Yes. Taking ownership of the wrongdoing without making excuses or shifting blame. For example, I was wrong. I messed up. Instead of saying I'm sorry for the way you feel, say I was wrong.
Right.
Okay. Making restitution. This might be mine. Like if you're gonna apologize to me, you took my money. I want my money back. And this the problem for me with this one though is that sometimes people can't make restitution. Sometimes the pain and the hurt happened so many years ago that what they need to give you back they can't. And so you have to figure out another way. Like,
how do you correct?
You were having that conversation. The conversation we were having Sunday, that's nobody's business, just between me and you.
Just us.
You did express regret. You did accept responsibility, but we can't go back and redo it.
And change.
Oftentimes, what I want to do is go back and redo it. Right, offering concrete action or means to repair the damage caused. Sometimes what you did caused damage, and I need the damage to be fixed. So you say. That's why it's important for people to talk about things as soon as they possibly can.
Yes.
Don't wait years to talk about something that you could have talked about in a day.
Right.
Don't, and that happens, right? How can I make it right? It's dangerous.
It's damaging.
I was watching this Instagram and it says talking about him and his wife, and I'm not here to champion it, but a lot of bad things happen in the gap between offense and acknowledgement of offense. Right. And so that's where infidelity comes in. Right. That's where pain comes in. That's when misunderstandings and stuff, because of that gap between I was hurt, you hurt me, or you're not doing something for me, and acknowledging it and communicating it. Because that's the time to make it right. And the longer you go without talking about it, the more damage is being done. So making restitution, so expressing regret, accepting responsibility, making restitution, genuinely repenting. Oh, people in AFC love this. Demonstrating a sincere desire to change or prevent future occurrences. For example, I'll take steps to prevent a further recurrence. So, sometimes you can't make restitution, but you can change your behavior going forward.
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, there's the simple things like, do you accept my apology? Directly asking for forgiveness. Can you find in your heart to forgive me now? Or will you please forgive me? Now, I'm going to tell everybody, don't ever ask me that question.
I've never asked you that question. If you notice.
Tell me how you're going to make it right. Tell me. Never asked you. Don't ask me that question. Right? Can you find it? Because now you're putting the responsibility on
you. Exactly.
But some people down with it. All right, let's end this episode, girl.
All right. So what's our bounce back challenge? You got a bounce back challenge for you guys.
Okay, before we wrap up, here's this week's bounce back challenge. We want you to practice one emotional intelligence skills. One of the emotional intelligence skills in the relationship this week. And what we said those were, let's give it back to you. You start with self-awareness, right? Self-regulation.
Or pick anyone.
Motivation. Empathy. And social skills. Pick one of those four. One of those five. I'm sorry. Pick one of those five and to practice in the relationship this week. Whether it's self-awareness, active listening, responding with empathy. I guess the skills are up here. The skills are practicing self-awareness, pausing before reacting, developing empathy, improving communication, learning to apologize and forgive, practicing whatever we share with you this week. Practice something. Self-awareness, active listening, responding with empathy.
Yep. And let us know how it goes. Give it a try. Let us know how it goes. And you can comment on our social media. Send us a message or an email. You can email us at the Bounce Back Community. Right?
I'm gonna give the email address.
So
we
would
email
love
us here.
to hear from you and your story.
The bouncebackcommunity@gmail.com.
Yes,
and we'll share your story. Let us know if you can share it too.
All right.
So you could join us there. You could join us on Facebook at the Bounce Back Podcast, or you could go to our personal pages on Facebook. I'm Heraclio Wyatt. She's Paulette Allison. Not because she doesn't want to be a Wyatt, because she's a teacher. That's what she told me. I guess I have to believe that's
Paulette Allison. That's me.
Yeah,
yes.
She's Paulette Allison.
I think I like that name for this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Keep it up.
I'm just saying.
All right. You can join us on Instagram at the Bounce Back. Instagram is _Bounce Back Podcast. And YouTube, just go to @the Bounce Back Community. And we're there as well. So communicate with us in those different ways. We love to hear your stories. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. Help us raise profile, help us make this a big part of what we do. Let's increase the community.
Right.
Let's create a community of resilience. Me and Paulette want to help somebody.
Right.
Our pain, our experiences, our setbacks should be a blessing to help inform somebody in the midst of what they're going through. I got to get out of here soon because I got to join my coaching thing. So share with a friend, subscribe, like, leave a review, comment in the comment section. It really helps us keep bringing these conversations to you. Let us know what you need to hear more of. And
thanks for tuning in. And remember, emotional intelligence is a game changer in relationships. Keep growing, keep bouncing back, and we will see you next time.
Keep bouncing back. Love you.
We bouncing back.
We don't have a producer, so I'm trying to pray for us to get a producer, y'all. So I know how to do this thing. Well,
you're doing great, though. You're doing great.
Goodbye, y'all. Peace.
Bye.